Welcome, Catwalkers, to another day of broadcast excellence. I would be your host, Jay Whitlow, missional entrepreneur and storyteller. For over the past 20 years, I have served from the oil field to the mission field with a lot of stops in between. Today, I sit behind this mic on a personal journey to share stories from people right here in the Permian Basin. Each week, you will hear from some great leaders and entrepreneurs on their big successes and heartbreaking losses. One thing I've learned is that storytelling is powerful, and behind every person is a story to tell. So join me as I dive into today's conversation here on the Catwalk.
From the PCC studios in Midland, it's the Catwalk, presented by Performance Chemical. Conversations connecting with industry executives, community leaders, nonprofit organizations, and social entrepreneurs.
Hey, a big thank you to our title sponsor, Performance Chemical, where they are moving the needle upward with chemical automation. Performance Chemical will add value to your team with scalable and reliable service. At Performance Chemical, how you get there matters. Today, I'm so excited to welcome to the studio and introduce to you professional wrestler, the living proof, Jastin Taylor. Jastin, thank you so much for being here. We're so excited that you are here. I know our viewers and listeners are excited about this conversation. Start us off from the very beginning. Just tell us where you're from and a little bit about you.
Well, I like to say I've been in Midland most of my life, but I was born in Dallas, so that's kind of where the journey began. And I moved here to Midland, Texas at the age of 5. So I tell everybody, you know, as far as back as I can remember, I've been a Midlander. But yes, so I've lived here. Families lived here for a long time. My parents still live here. A lot of my family members on both their sides still live here. And we've got a few people spread out, Houston, San Antonio, things of that nature. But most of my family is here. So. Okay. That's where everything began.
Now, you said in Dallas. Was it Dallas proper, or was it maybe a surrounding suburb?
Surrounding, I would say more Plano.
Okay.
Yeah, right around that area. Oh, okay.
So you know where Mesquite is?
Yes, I know where that is. I know exactly where that is.
So Plano and Mesquite did not like each other back in, I know when I went to high school there, it was whoever won in football in Plano and Mesquite always got to play Odessa Permian, it seemed like, in the playoffs. That was back in the late 80s. Mid to late 80s. Okay, so you're in Midland, and what high school did you go to here?
Midland High School.
Midland High School.
MHS alum.
Yeah.
I'm going to date myself here, class of 2000.
Class of 2000, so recent graduate, I guess you could say. For a guy who's 56, anything in the 2000s is recent.
Okay, you know, that makes me feel a lot better.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
We'll say recent.
And I just told you my age, so we're good. Okay, so Midland High graduate. What happened after high school?
Well, after high school, of course, the next part of the journey was college. And this is where things really get sort of interesting for me, because the path was always, Jastin's going to be a lawyer. That sort of was that was sort of the expected path, I guess you could say. That was sort of what my parents first aspired for me. And so when I went to college, which I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, which is a HBCU, historically black college, if you don't know what that is. Right. Martin Luther King graduated from there.
Okay,
Samuel L. Jackson. So, you know, it's got some name recognition to it. So that's where I went. I was a poli-sci major, and the next step was supposed to be graduating and going to law school.
Okay.
And so
something happened.
Yes, obviously something has happened, because you're not interviewing me here as a lawyer.
Right.
So I like to say that what happened was I hit a crossroads in my life at that time. So I graduated from college, and I did pretty well in college. And of course, the next step is, you know, you're taking the bar exam, and then you're trying to figure out law school. And at that point in my life, I really started to just look inward and ask myself, okay, Jastin, is this what you really want to do? Is this what you want to do, or is this what everyone else expects of you? Is this what everyone else wants you to do? And I looked inward, and, you know, I'm standing on the edge of that cliff, and I'm like, I don't think that this is the path for me. I think that if I take this path, I'm going to have a lot of regrets. I'm going to have a lot of what ifs, and this is not where my heart is. So I came home. I stepped away from the cliff and came home and started to try to figure things out. Okay, well, if it's not that, and of course, obviously, I could have always changed and gone back to that. But I had to ask myself, okay, what do you really want to do? And wrestling was something that I always loved. I always loved it as a kid. I always enjoyed watching it. And when you're a kid growing up, these are like larger than life. They seem like real life superheroes. The Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man. They're like almost like these cartoon characters come to life. But then as you get older and you get to find out more of the ins and outs, and as the curtain got pulled back and wrestling began to reveal more of itself to the public, I still was a big fan of it. I still began to like just the art of it, the physicality of it, how incredible these athletes were, how durable they were. So I gravitated to that. So even when I found out about it, I still was a fan of it. And that fandom led me to trying to seek out, how do I do this? How do I train for this? And of course, in Midland, Texas at that time, growing up in the 90s, there are no wrestling schools or wrestling training or professional wrestling. That's not, just like we were talking about minutes ago, everything's football here. Football is what we care about here in the Midland and Odessa area. So there wasn't anywhere to train wrestling. And that's when wrestling sort of found me, I would say. Like, I was at a job. I was managing at the local movie theater, Hollywood Theaters, it used to be, recently closed down and everything like that. That was kind of a big deal a few months ago. But that's where I was, met some friends who were also into wrestling. We started a trampoline wrestling little promotion. So we were going out to random parks just on weekends, and we were just jumping around, kicking each other. We didn't know what we were doing, doing stuff, right? I'm going to date myself again here. A promoter reaches out to us on MySpace, of all things. Yeah, that's an old reference.
That is a reference.
Hey, don't call me old to my face, though.
That's right. He will take you down.
Yes, I will. I definitely will. So we were reached out to on MySpace and invited to Amarillo to this promotion called Top of Texas. So me and about 5 or 6 of my trampoline wrestling friends go to this show. First independent live show I've ever been to in Amarillo, Texas. And we just had a blast. We were making so much noise, and we really kind of got the attention of the wrestlers and the promoters. The more interactive you are and loud you are, the better it usually is. Well, long story short, end of the show, promoter walks up to me and my friends and goes, "Hey, some of you guys have a good look. We really noticed you in the back there. Have you ever thought about doing this?" And I was like, wow. I mean,
that was the moment.
Yeah, that was the moment. That was the thing. Yeah. And I was like, "Sir, I would love to give it a try." He said, "Well, why don't you get in the ring right now? I'm going to bring some of the guys out."
Really?
Yes. So some of the guys from the back came out. I got to meet some of these guys, and they said, "Okay, we're going to teach you how to run the ropes. We're just going to show you kind of the movement of the ropes." Almost like just a fish taking the water, I was able to do it. Just first or second attempt, I was able to do it. And that's when that promoter said, "Hey, you got to come back.
There's something here."
And the rest is history.
Wow. All right, what year was that?
That was 14 years ago. So that was around 2008, 2009.
2008 or 9, okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there in your story, and I want Chris to jump in at any time, because I really want to unpack a lot of what you were talking about, because you're sitting in front of me, but you're not dressed like a professional wrestler, which I would think in my mind that I would have you sitting here ready to take me on in a wrestling match. I wish we could do ropes around the room or whatever, but you're dressed wonderfully well, and so I'm like, I don't see wrestler in that. And then you said you were going to be a lawyer at some point. So before we get into the wrestling part, what are you doing right now outside of wrestling? Do you have a job outside of wrestling? Because I want to spend a lot of time on that, but what are you currently doing outside of that?
Yes, so I took all of that knowledge from political science and all of that education that I learned in college, and now I am actually working for Health and Human Services with the Midland Memorial Hospital. So I am what they call a hospital-based advisor. So basically, I am approving or denying Medicaid for applicants and people that are entered into the hospital. So when you're admitted into the hospital, you have the opportunity, if you qualify, for medical benefits to help cover your medical bills. And some of these people are in dire straits, really need help with those bills and everything like that. I'm the guy taking those applications. I'm doing the background checks. I'm determining if these people are eligible for those benefits and given the yes or no. So I work closely with the hospital and network with them to get that done.
So that is a huge portion of your life that's here, and then that other portion, a pretty big portion of your life is wrestling, right? So that's where I want to spend a lot of our time on today. Now, I don't have a huge background in wrestling. When Chris and I were talking about doing this interview, I was like, wait, wrestler? And you said about, and I want to back up to something you said about jumping on the trampoline. So explain to me trampoline wrestling, because my experience of wrestling, and I've heard you say some great names there, but my experience of wrestling is the old school wrestling, and I think you mentioned that too. I remember my dad used to take me to the Sportatorium in Dallas, which is no longer there. Bill Mercer was a great announcer for wrestling. He was a former Dallas Cowboy announcer at the stadium and stuff. I remember growing up with Fritz Von Erich and Kerry Von Erich and that whole clan, I guess, his brothers and Chris Adams was there. I remember a guy by the name of Stunning Steve Austin, who's now Stone Cold Steve Austin. But that's my history. I was there on February the 12th, 93, when Kerry Von Erich wrestled his last match with Chris Adams, and then unfortunately he took his life a couple days later. But that's what my history is. So you've got that history because when you were younger, you saw this, you were mesmerized, you were involved and wanted to be like those guys because they were larger than life. So tell me about the trampoline, and then could you explain a little bit more about what you mean by those guys were larger than life, that they really grasped, that world took you in?
Well, I would say, okay, so the first question about the trampoline.
Let's go. I got to hear about that.
So that is just a bunch of young kids with a dream and no way to make it happen.
Like a little trampoline?
So, yeah, we're talking one of those big trampolines that they used to sell. I mean, you could get them just about anywhere, but I want to say we got ours from Sam's. Everybody put in a little money and we bought one.
So it's a big-size trampoline.
So it's a big-size trampoline, one that comes in pieces and you got to kind of put it together and everything. So, yeah, we would take that. And essentially, we would take our phone cameras and film ourselves having these matches. You would have two people that would be commentators who would hold the camera and talk as things were happening in the ring. We would get in the trampoline and cut promos and talk about, oh, I hate this guy, or I can't wait to wrestle this guy.
Did you have a net around you?
No, there was no net.
There was no net.
Anything. It was just the
hardcore.
Trampoline and ground. So yes, we got hurt quite a bit. It is
trampoline and ground.
Yes, awesome. Yes, and ground wins every time. Let me tell you that we never won against the ground. So obviously not the smartest way to start pursuing wrestling, but at the time, we didn't see a way to actually pursue it. So you're just people mimicking what you see on TV. And just sort of living this fantasy out in your head with no thought ever that I would actually one day be doing this. So it's crazy to think that that's where the journey began.
So you moved from the trampoline to the regular ring.
Yes.
Okay, there was the transition there. Okay. Now you're younger, you're watching this unfold on television, or you're seeing it. You said those guys came to life. Who's one of those guys? Who are some of those idols that you had? that you grew up with?
Well, actually, some of the people you named, like you mentioned Stone Cold Steve Austin, he was definitely one, especially growing up in the 90s. That was big on the Attitude Era, which was kind of where wrestling sort of made this transition of kind of the cartoonish, kind of more animated characters, and it went from that to more knockdown, drag out. You know, Stone Cold Steve Austin was a guy that was fighting against his boss, and he was angry about his work conditions and stuff like that. So the content became a little more mature, and I would say a little more relatable. Austin was kind of like an everyman. So you saw a little bit of yourself in him. You know, if you were tired of the status quo, you know, in the 90s, with me growing up in the 90s, that was really big. We're tired of the status quo. You know, a lot of rock singers, musicians, people, that sort of was the talk at the time. So Austin sort of represented that for people like me. And when I say he was larger than life, you know, I can't yell at my boss. You know, I can't exactly pick up my boss and suplex him. But Steve Austin could. He could tell his boss how he felt. He could come in with an attitude and get his way most of the time, just being who he was. And that was admirable. You know, you sit there and look at that and you go, that's kind of what I want to be. I want to be able to be myself one day and dictate where my path goes.
Wow.
So
Okay,
let me ask you this real quick. So for me, when I became a wrestling fan, it's because my dad turned on the TV and it was Ultimate Warrior versus Papa Shango.
Oh, man.
And that curse got put on him, and I thought it was really happening. I thought this dude, and they, like the hospital scene, the sick, you know. What was the moment that hooked you?
Man, that is a great question. Man, and I remember the Ultimate Warrior, Papa Shango. That was pretty big. But for me, I would go maybe just a few months more, and I would have to say it was WrestleMania 6, Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior. They wrestled in Canada, so it was almost like the two biggest good guys at that time, the two biggest stars, the biggest wrestlers at that time locking up. And man, it was just such excellent drama, I like to say. It was so back and forth. I didn't know who I wanted to win, and it was like you were disappointed that Hogan lost, but you were also so happy for the Ultimate Warrior. And I think that was the moment that really hooked me. It was just how intense that was, how invested I was in both of them as characters, and I was hooked ever since.
Chris, was that the moment for you when you saw that one with your dad on TV?
Yeah, for me, it was like May of '92. I was like 10 years old at the time. I was actually 9, about to turn 10. But I watched Dad turn that on, and I saw the curse get put on. Like it was, I only saw it like leading up to the curse, like a few minutes, and then the curse happened, and he got hauled off to the back, and then they cut to him later, and he's in medical, and he starts vomiting. Like green pea soup exorcist type vomiting. And I'm like, oh my gosh, something's going to happen to this guy. Why would they do this to this guy? Like I was so hooked the fact that somebody could literally put a curse on somebody and make this guy ill. I was hooked at that point. My dad had to sit me down after the show was over and explain to me what was going on. And so ever since then I was like, okay, I'm sold. This is something I'm into.
I think the thing that got me was something similar. That was the Iron Claw, right? And I'll never forget that. And what do you have a signature, like we were talking about, do you have a signature move or do you have a signature something that you do?
Yes, I actually do. So my wrestler name, just to say that for everybody watching, is the Living Proof Jastin Taylor. And I'll go into more why that's the name and everything. But the signature move is called the Burden of Proof. So,
the Burden of Proof.
Yes.
Okay.
So kind of a play on words. Basically, I spring off the ropes, I kick you in the head, I hook you by the head, then after the kick, once you're dazed from that, lift you up and then I slam you to the ground.
And we are not going to do that right now.
No, we are not
correct?
going to demonstrate unless you want to demonstrate. But I don't know. This may be the last interview you do.
I'm telling you,
if we do that.
There's some people watching and listening that would love for you to do what you just said to me right now, and I could probably name them, but I'm not going to do that. So, so why the living proof? You got the burden of proof as a move. Why the living proof? Why is that your name?
Well, the name is simple because I truly believe this. I truly believe that everyone in their life, no matter who you are, we all wind up being living proof of something, right? Our life is going to dictate that in the way we live it.
Right.
But my whole thing is make sure you are living proof of something you can be proud of.
Oh, that's awesome.
And everybody has those things, right? You have those things that you get up and wake up for, those passions, those goals that you have in your life. And I want to be a symbol for that. I want to motivate people and encourage people, hey, if I can live my dreams and I can go out here and do something that I have loved since childhood, and I can wake up every day with purpose, and whether I'm training or going to work so that I can do more of this and all of my interactions with other wrestlers and all the things that I've accomplished, if I can be living proof to somebody that, hey, you can do it, that's bigger than me, that's bigger than wrestling, that's bigger than my accomplishments. Now that's my way, I feel, of giving back to people.
And that's
just
bigger
giving
than life, like you were saying, that those people were bigger than life to you. I appreciate you saying that. I want to hear, when you're not at the hospital, you're not doing the job that you're dressed as right now, and you're in that mode of wrestler, what's a day like for you in that? What training goes in to prepare for a match?
Well, it all starts in the weight room. Like it does with most wrestlers. And I'm a very, I would say, agility-based, athletic-based wrestler, so I'm doing a lot of flipping around, rolling on the ground. I've got a martial arts background, too, so a lot of kicking and striking. So for me, endurance and stamina and flexibility is everything. So even though I incorporate weight training every day is also Stairmaster, cardio. I do a lot of yoga for flexibility and loosen my joints and things like that to improve my dexterity and all of that stuff. So really it's a 7-day-a-week process. Now, of course, every day is not as intense as some other days. You know, it's very planned and it's very meticulous in the workouts, but it combines all of those things, and all of those things help me prepare for what is ring training. And I used to ring train when we had our base of operations here for old school wrestling. I was training every weekend. Now, I don't have the ring to be able to just do specific ring training, so everything has to be done at the gym, or I go to wrestling shows early so that I can get ring time and roll around, try new things, conceptualize what I'm going to do, things of that nature. So it's a 7-day process. I'm going, normally my days are, I go to work. During lunch, I'm at the gym. Then I'm back doing the suit and the tie job. Then after work, I'm back at the gym doing more stuff. Then at night, I'm usually studying matches, trying to come up with concepts, things that I can do, etc. Or I'm talking to bookers, creating content on social media, trying to get my name out there so that I can get booked for matches, or I am traveling to matches. Okay. And that is pretty much my life.
So matches would be you're going to wrestle. You would only wrestle once in a event, like one match, or do you have multiple matches in an event, like over a weekend?
It varies. Most of the time, it is just one match. Okay. But depending on what the assignment is, because you almost have to look at a pro wrestler kind of like an independent contractor. So it's kind of like you. A promoter may contact you for your services, and the plan may be, well, you're going to go out and wrestle this singles match, but then you're also going to compete in this battle royal that we have later that night. Okay. So basically, I will, an offer will be made. I'll look at the parameters of that offer and see kind of what the assignment is, what is the story, what do you need me to do as the living proof, and then I go from there. And I've wrestled as many as 3 matches in
a weekend.
In a weekend or one single show sometimes. So,
Okay.
yes.
And those are called promotions. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
So an event on a weekend, and I know you've got one coming up pretty soon, don't you? That you want to talk about? Where is that one going to be and when?
Yes, Old School Wrestling. It's going to be the Revival, and it's going to be in Odessa, Texas on December 2nd,
Okay.
Ector County Coliseum, Building B. Tickets are going fast. You got to get some. And Old School Wrestling is near and dear to my heart because that's the home promotion here in Odessa. And it was once ran by a fella that lived in Odessa named Fred Urban, and he has passed away. So the promotion for a while was kind of in limbo, and now his daughter, Tori, has taken over the promotion, and she's trying to bring it back, hence the name The Revival.
The Revival, okay. So the promotion is what you would wrestle at. So tell me about some of your accomplishments. What all have you won? I know you've got some belts, I guess is what they're called here. And I'm going to put one on in a minute and be an awesome wrestler. But tell me about these and some of the accomplishments that you've had.
Okay, well, we'll start with some of the. I'm currently holding 3 different belts. So one of them,
first?
yes.
Oh wow,
So,
it's heavier than I thought.
yeah, they are.
Right, there
They
it is.
are. People,
That one
they
right
always
there?
catch people off guard. You should see kids trying to pick them up, and all of a sudden they almost stumble and fall. But
Did I
that is,
wear it right here?
yeah, sure.
Okay, so that.
And that is the OSW Championship. That
What do you
is-
think, Chris? Can I pull it off?
No, not at all.
No? Bro, I got it going
Man,
on.
he
Look
put
at that.
you under the bus.
Man, I'm telling you.
But yeah,
I'm gonna
was-
do the burden of proof on you later.
Oh man, he knows the term, he knows the lingo. But that was based out of Odessa, and then we've got the Buzzsaw Heavyweight Championship.
Here's the
this
buzzsaw. Look at this one.
This one's based out of Oklahoma.
Look at that one. Can we see that one? Shiny.
Look at that.
This is
Shiny and
Oklahoma
nice.
buzzsaw.
Yes.
Okay.
I like the classic NWA, AWA style of that design.
I was about to say you took the words
On which
right out of
one?
my mouth.
That one, the buzzsaw.
The buzzsaw one. Okay.
Yes, this is based on that classic AWA design. So,
Okay.
yeah, they love their old school wrestling over there.
And then you've got this one.
And then we've got the South Plains Championship Wrestling Belt, which is also defended here in West Texas. So places like Lamesa, Snyder, Plainview, those areas
Okay.
that promotion runs.
Okay. So, you had 5 matches in 2023, right? Did I read that right on your bio? Is that right for this year?
Well,
Or promotions, I guess.
Well, 5 different promotions, yes, but I've had quite a few more matches
than that. Okay.
It's been quite a few more, but yeah, when it comes to, I guess, my schedule of matches, man, I've had so many matches this year I can't even begin to. But man, I guess it might be better just to give locations.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been to Chicago this year. I've been to Colorado this year. I've been to Oklahoma this year. Dallas. A couple of different places here in West Texas, like Plainview, Lubbock, Texas, things of that nature. So, yeah, it's a constant thing. I'm constantly traveling. And as a wrestler, you're trying to attain more notoriety. That's kind of the goal. So the more out of state and the more places that I can go and promotions that I can wrestle at, the better it's going to be for me, the bigger the notoriety and the more opportunities I'm going to get.
Right.
I've also had been blessed enough to have some opportunities with WWE. I've been on SmackDown and Raw as a security guard a few times for a few segments. I've been in there in the ring with guys like Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar for this year.
Yeah.
I also wrestled for All Elite Wrestling. They came to El Paso, Texas, and they're another nationally televised wrestling promotion.
Let me pop in there. 'Cause
Sure,
I was at the El Paso show.
Okay.
And explain to people how that happens. Like, how did you get reached out to? What is a day like in that process? Like, if you show up to the arena for WWE or AEW, walk us through that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Great question.
Well, first of all, it's just an honor to be there because so many wrestlers are contacting places like All Elite Wrestling, and they see so many resumes. They see so many things, videos, matches from people. So when I got that call that they wanted me to come to El Paso, it was, that was just an amazing day to know that they recognize you, they see some of your content, and they're interested in what you can bring to the table.
Sure.
So I arrived there at El Paso, and I mean, you would think that you'd be walking on eggshells. Oh, I don't want to disappoint anybody, but the great thing about my career is that I have been in the ring on the independent scene with some of the wrestlers there at All Elite Wrestling. So I know guys like Matt Hardy, Ricky Starks, people like that. So that helped because when I walk in, I'm welcomed with open arms, and people know me by first name. Oh, hey, Jastin, glad you made it here, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I get hugs and hellos, and that always helps ease the tension. But it was great. I arrived there. I was told to get dressed. I was then taken to their photo and media people.
Right.
I got to take photo shots with them. I'll share some of those with you. Maybe that can go on the podcast as well if there's time. But it was great. I got to do a whole photo shoot with them like I was one of their superstars. And I got to wrestle Brian Cage, who is a big guy, huge guy, you know what I mean? A bit bigger than me, if I do say so myself. But it was a great experience. It was great to be in an AEW ring. It was great to get a response from the crowd because there were people in El Paso that recognized me from my travels. So all in all, it was a wonderful night, and I was told that I did a great job.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
My wife is a pretty big fan of yours. So, she learned about you through Rampage in Lubbock.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she's got a couple of your shirts. And
Awesome.
When you came out that night, she went nuts. She was super hyped that she actually knew somebody that was on the show. She's become a pretty big fan and she's familiar with all the wrestlers, but the fact that she knew somebody from the
personally
area,
knew,
personally knew somebody, she went nuts, and that meant the world to her. That she's like, okay, I'm going to pay to see all these guys that I see on TV, but the bigger moment was seeing somebody she knew.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you said that because I think that is the great thing about independent wrestling is that, yes, sure, sometimes you're going to see people who are on television.
Right.
But other times it's exactly like your wife. Maybe it's somebody that you know, maybe somebody that you've seen locally, maybe you've seen them at a grocery store or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, or maybe you're seeing them in a suit and tie like I am now, and then the next thing you know, I'm coming out there in tights and yelling and sweating and hitting somebody in the face. And there's just something about being that close to someone who does that and having this different lifestyle and knowing someone who has that journey. And it's very motivating, and you just feel like you're more of a part of it because you actually know this person, and it kind of helps you be more invested in what you're looking at. So that is one of the benefits of coming out to something like independent wrestling.
For sure. I went to a show in El Paso one time that had Ace Austin in it. People who don't know who Ace Austin is, incredible high flyer.
Yes, he's great.
Yeah.
Super great guy, and I've got to actually get to know him a little bit. And so anytime he's in a show anywhere that I can get to, I'm going to go to it because there's a personal connection between these guys. Like Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, all these other professionals in the WWE are huge people and they're huge draws, but I don't know them, right? But knowing Ace Austin draws me to want to spend money on this guy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you never know who's going to wind up getting called up and getting those opportunities on TV. And wouldn't that be a great story if somebody that you knew, somebody that you went to local shows to, and now all of a sudden they're in WWE or they're on AEW or they're on Impact Wrestling, and you can go, hey, I remember going to see him in Midland, Texas, or I remember going to see him in Lubbock, Texas, and look where he is now. And it's cool because you were a part of that journey. So that's an amazing thing. It really is.
What is often misunderstood about the profession of wrestling?
I think that people oftentimes get too wrapped up in, is it real or not?
Yeah.
What's real about it? I hate to say the F word, but what's real about it? What's fake about it?
Right.
Different things like that. Not that F word. I know what you're thinking.
Yeah. It was like, get the bleep button ready over there,
get it
Chris.
ready over there. I know he was like, hey, giving him a signal.
Yeah.
But I think
That's
that
awesome.
what people misconstrue is that there's real magic in wrestling.
Yeah.
It's just like
Yeah.
when you go and sit in a movie theater and you're watching a movie that's really good, that suddenly hooks you and grips you and invested in you. You know that Keanu Reeves did not really jump out of a building that exploded.
Right.
But
Yeah.
still, there's something about John Wick that draws you in. There's something about the way the martial arts, the
Great point.
choreography,
Yeah.
the performance, there's something about it that draws you in. And you're there for that. You're glad you paid for that. And that's what we as wrestlers try to do.
Yeah.
Sure, yes, you know that we're trained. Yes, you know that there is a story and we are characters and things like that.
Right.
But at least what I can say about me is that I have no stunt doubles. There's no CGI when I'm out there.
It's just you.
When I hit that mat, it's really me hitting
Yeah.
that mat. When you see the contact made, it's really me making that contact.
Yeah.
And if I can invest you in that and I can draw you into that, then it's just like you're sitting there watching a movie. And that's the magic of wrestling. Concentrate more on the magic and less on the
Trying to
the
figure
ins
out
and
what-
outs
yeah.
or trying to figure it
Yeah,
out.
trying to
Just
figure this
enjoy
out.
the
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
Don't worry about how
Great.
the trick was done.
You know,
Great point.
there are people who've always brought up to me when I'm like talking about it, just
Yeah.
as like a fan or whatnot. They will say, "Oh, you know, it's fake, right?" And I said, "It's not."
Or
fake.
it's
You can't-
scripted.
Or it's scripted. I said,
Yeah.
"It's not fake. You can't fake hitting the mat." And
Yeah.
but I also say, why is it Tom Cruise gets praised for doing his own stunts, but the guys in the ring are kind of chuckled and called fake?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
good
that is
point.
such a weird dynamic that I don't understand myself, because you would think that something that Tom Cruise does and gets praised for, we have to do. That's every weekend for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Every weekend I'm doing my own stunts. I'm falling myself. I'm making the contact, everything like that. And, you know, an actor gets a script or gets takes and things like
Right.
that. Wrestlers, we're called to put this together in minutes, and we go out there,
And when
and
it happens, it
there are no second takes. Whatever happens,
Yeah.
and you are paid to make it the best performance you possibly can. So I always tell people it's one of the most physical, one of the most just physically demanding types of performances there is.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also what makes it so special and why I have such a respect
So
for it.
Wow,
if
that's great.
You're in a match, right? Explain to people. You put it together in minutes. So explain to people, how do you put together a match?
Yeah.
Give us, talk about as much as you really want to about that. But like when you're putting together a match, what is the process?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would just say, think about it in these terms. So let's just say, it would almost be like, let's just say you're a professional dancer or something like that, right? And you may be and let's just say you have to perform. You have a normal dance partner that you dance with, right? But maybe one time you're going to this other show or this other performance, and you're going to have to perform with another dancer. Now, you both know the moves, right? But it might be a matter of coming up, coordinating something, coming
Sure.
up with something that
makes sense.
you can both do. But you're both trained in the art. So even though, yes, you may have to converse or talk about what kind of story we're going to tell, who's the hero, who's the villain, what is the emotion that we're trying to convey to this audience. That's most of the conversation. But the physical stuff, we're trusting each other. We're trusting that we know
Yeah,
what to do.
yeah.
We're trusting that you're trusting that your partner knows how to dance, so to speak. So a lot less is done with that, and more is done with what are we trying to convey in the ring.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
That's a great point. All right, we got a couple minutes left. Some rapid fire questions for you, okay?
Let's
Chris,
go.
if you got any, throw them out here, okay? Just rapid fire. Have you ever been injured in a match?
No, I have not. Only simple bumps and bruises, and I'm very fortunate to say that.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Knock on
Hopefully
wood.
no
Yeah.
major injuries. But
Yeah.
I've known plenty of people who've broken bones, ACL tears, I've seen neck injuries. I've seen all types of injuries. But fortunately
so
for me,
far, you're
I have
clean.
not
Okay.
hit that road.
Okay. How many folding chairs have you broken over someone's head?
Not enough.
Not
and,
enough.
And you can be one if you want to be.
Should I?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, he probably wants that to happen. Okay. Your favorite win?
My favorite win ever. I went 45 minutes in a match with Matt Hardy for the
Really?
OSW championship. It was about 7 years ago. We wrestled in Wichita Falls, Texas, and we went almost an hour long. And that is
Wow.
probably the best match I've had, and not even so much because I won or we had a time limit draw and I was able to keep my title, but it was more the respect that I earned from my peers. When I came back through the curtain, everybody was clapping. Everybody thought I did such a great job, and the fact that I was able to share the stage with someone like Matt Hardy, who at that time was fresh off of WWE television, that is one of my biggest accomplishments. And it was kind of that moment where it was like, man, all the training, all the traveling really paid off, and I really do belong here.
How many seconds would it take for you to pin me?
3.
3 seconds.
And he's being generous.
Is he being generous?
Yeah. probably
Okay.
About a second and a half.
No, I think I could put up a little bit of a fight.
No.
Right?
Look at you.
I could.
Look at you.
I know. Look at me. Okay. Nacho Libre. Is he a pretty accurate wrestler?
Yes, if you're looking for cinematic comedy in your
He's
in
not
your
a true
wrestling
wrestler. It's not a
movies.
documentary.
But no, not quite a documentary. Though there was an actual Nacho Libre. But
Was
no,
there?
we'll just say that story has been abridged
I bet it has been.
a bit. But
Yeah.
he is a legend in Mexico and El Paso.
What's next for you?
What is next for me? Well, besides breaking more people's heads and kicking more people in the face, we've got this OSW show coming up. I'll plug it one more time.
Yeah.
December 2nd, Odessa, Texas. I will be defending the title against
Listen to that.
against a guy
There we
out
go.
of Houston, Texas,
Yeah.
trained by the Hall of Famer Booker T, Jay Alexander. I'll also send you a promo pic of that. Maybe you can put it in here too. So be there or be square, Odessa, Texas. I'm talking to you. You do not want to miss hard-hitting West Texas wrestling action with the living proof.
There it is, right there. Last question. Who pours into you? Who spends time investing into you, from whether it be, for your wrestling, whether it be for just your work or just your life in general? Who would be that person or persons that pours and invests into you?
Well, how does the saying go? It takes a village, right?
Yep.
So I guess I would say there were several people. And actually, you know what? I'll say this saying. They say that when you're good, you tell everybody about it. But when you're great, people tell you about it. And I would say that, man, there's not just one person that pours into me. It's my friends, some of my fellow wrestlers that I've grown up in the business with. It's people when I'm at the gym that come up to me and say, hey, man, you work so incredibly hard. Every day I see you in here, you're just go, 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 go. That keeps me going. Any kind of motivation I get from my parents, my family members, people on the street, or people that just come to the shows and said, hey, when you got on the mic and spoke, you said something that inspired me. I'm going to go out and try to do something myself that I want to do in my life. Those are the things that keep me going. So it's not one person. It's been the village that has kept me up, and that's why I want to keep being the living proof.
That's awesome. Well, living proof, Jastin Taylor, thank you so much for being here. This has been great. Chris, any last words? No? Thank you again so much for being here. We would love to put how people can get a hold of you on the show notes. If you can send me any of those pictures that you've got, links, we would put that on the show notes. And have a great Thanksgiving. I know we've got this week coming up, and I hope you get to spend some great time with your family. So thank you again for being here.
I will, and thank you so much for having me. What you're doing here is great. I've seen some of the other interviews.
Thank you.
Keep going, man. This is wonderful, and it's great that you're spotlighting local people here in the Midland, Odessa area. Keep doing this, man. This is great stuff.
Appreciate that. And thank you to our title sponsor, Performance Chemical, where they are moving the needle upward in chemical automation. Performance Chemical can add value to your team with scalable and reliable service. At Performance Chemical, how you get there matters. Thanks again. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving. Don't be sad it's over. Just be glad it happened. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us. Drop us a line at media@perf-chem.com. Thanks to our title sponsor, Performance Chemical. How you get there matters to us.